Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you are somewhere comfortable right now. I'm really hoping you aren't multitasking too hard today. Maybe you've got a warm drink. Maybe the lights are dimmed low.
Chuckles softly, yeah.
Because the vibe we are going for today is definitely, I don't know, late night philosophy by the fireplace.
It really is. We
Yeah.
are stepping away from the hustle of the daily news cycle, the tech headlines, all that stuff.
All the noise.
All the noise, yeah. And we are stepping into something much stranger and honestly much more significant.
Exactly. And I want to start by asking you, the listener, a question. And be honest with yourself here.
Yeah.
Have you ever woken up from a dream that was so vivid, so visceral, that for a split second, your bedroom, the physical walls, the alarm clock, the sunlight hitting the floor, felt like the illusion?
Oh, yeah.
You had just left the real world and woke up in the fake one?
I think everyone has had that moment of disorientation. That
Yeah.
split second where the dream logic, it just feels more solid than gravity.
Well, today's deep dive suggests that feeling might not just be morning grogginess. It might be physics. We are digging into the archives again, specifically the Seth Material. We're looking at session 115 from the early sessions, book 3.
And this was recorded way back on December 16th, 1964.
Right.
And this is a pivotal session. I mean, if you followed the Seth Material, you know a lot of the early stuff is board work or basic definition.
Right, laying the groundwork.
Exactly. But session 115, this is where Seth, the entity speaking through Jane Roberts, moves past just interpreting dreams and starts laying out the actual architecture of the dream universe.
The architecture, I like that.
Yeah. He treats it not as a fantasy realm, but as a valid, objective dimension that actively trades with our own.
Okay, before we jump into the rabbit hole, and it is a deep one today, we have a few important administrative things to cover.
The necessary business.
First off, for all our listeners, this deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We aren't selling anything here. We're just, exploring ideas.
Right. And the source material we are quoting and analyzing comes directly from the early sessions, which is published by the New Awareness Network. And if what we talk about today sparks that curiosity, and it probably will, we highly, highly encourage you to go to the source.
Absolutely.
You can find the books and support the preservation of this material at sethcenters.com/the early sessions.
Seriously, go check it out. We're giving you the highlights, but the books are the real deal. Okay, so the mission for today.
Right.
We aren't just talking about, what does it mean if I dream about my teeth falling out? We are talking about the mechanics of reality.
We are. And we're going to unpack a really bold claim Seth makes in this session.
Okay.
He suggests that events we think of as purely physical, like the discovery of fire, and events we think of as, I don't know, spiritual or mythological.
Like the crucifixion.
Exactly, like the crucifixion, are actually part of a trade agreement, a currency exchange between the physical world and the dream world.
That part it blew my mind when I heard the notes, the idea that we are trading commodities with a dream dimension.
It's wild.
Plus, we've got some surprisingly funny moments, including a cosmic entity roasting someone's husband and a really spooky trip report from the authors themselves.
Oh, yeah, that gets pretty chilling.
So let's set the scene. It's December 1964. Imagine a snowy Wednesday night in Elmira, New York. It's 9:00 p.m. What is happening in that living room?
Well, the atmosphere is, it's intense. If you picture a standard seance, you might think of candles and holding hands.
Yeah, quiet, very solemn.
This isn't that. Jane Roberts is the medium, and usually she's relatively calm. But on this night, the notes say she had absolutely no idea what was coming.
None at all.
She was pacing the room regularly, which is a high-energy sign for her. And her voice, Rob, her husband, who took the notes, he said that her voice was much stronger than normal.
Yeah, he described it as loud, fast-paced, and maintaining this intensity the whole time. And she's not wearing her glasses, so her eyes look dark, dilated.
It's a very deep, trance-like state.
Totally.
And there's one detail that stood out to me as, well, unusual for Jane during a session. She was smoking.
Right. I noticed that too. Usually she puts the cigarettes away when Seth comes through.
Always.
But here, she's chain smoking while channeling. It paints this picture of a very charged electric atmosphere.
It really does?
Like she's plugging into a high voltage line and needs that physical grounding of the cigarette.
It does.
Yeah.
It suggests that the information coming through is heavy, or it required a lot of energy to transmit. So she's channeling this profound information about the nature of reality, and then reality interrupts.
Oh, I love this part. It's so good. It's 9:15 p.m.
Yeah.
Seth is in the middle of a sentence about how psychological realities continue to exist even when we aren't looking at them. He's deep in the metaphysics. And
Let's
then
knock, knock.
a knock at the door.
The paperboy.
The paperboy. You cannot write this stuff.
No.
A cosmic entity explaining the secrets of the universe is interrupted by a kid wanting to collect for the Star Gazette.
And look at the reaction. It's just a perfect slice of humanity.
It is.
Jane stops mid-sentence. She doesn't collapse or anything. She just freezes.
Just pauses.
Rob goes to the door. He pays the boy. They joke around for a minute about the weather or, whatever you joke about with a paperboy in 1964.
And Jane? What's she doing?
She snaps out of the trance instantly. Just like that. She's just Jane for 2 minutes. She says she's fine, maybe lights another cigarette.
Wow.
Then, the second the door closes and the boy is gone, she snaps right back in. At 9:20 p.m., the voice returns, loud and strong, exactly where she left off.
That is such a grounding moment. It reminds us that this isn't happening on a mountaintop in Tibet. It's happening in a living room with bills to pay and newspapers to read.
Right.
But the contrast is hilarious. You go from the nature of the universe is infinite to here's $2 for the paper.
But interestingly, Seth weaves that interruption into the flow. He doesn't miss a beat. He jumps right back into the core argument, which is all about redefining what we call real.
Okay, let's unpack this core argument. Because Seth comes out swinging against our standard definition of reality. He does not pull punches here.
No, he doesn't. He says, and I'm quoting here, "It goes without saying that your definition of reality is extremely limited and excludes more than it includes."
Wow. That is a sick burn on all of humanity, honestly.
Chuckles. It is.
You guys are missing most of the show.
Essentially, yes. He's saying we are biased toward physical things. If I can kick it, it's real.
A table, a chair, a rock.
Exactly. Seth calls these camouflage constructions. We think they're real because they seem durable. They stick around.
Right. That makes sense. If I leave the room and come back, the table is still there. But if I have a thought or a dream and I stop thinking it, it's gone. So we assume the thought is less real than the table. That seems like common sense.
But Seth flips that common sense on its head. He argues that the table is actually less durable.
Less durable?
Well, physical matter decays. It rots, it breaks, it turns to dust. Give it enough time, that table is gone. But a psychological reality, an idea, a dream.
That can be eternal.
That can be eternal. And more importantly, psychological realities manipulate physical matter.
Okay, can you give me an example of that? How does a flimsy thought manipulate a solid object?
Look at the chair you're sitting in. Before that chair existed as wood and fabric, it existed as an idea in someone's mind.
Right, a blueprint, a concept.
The idea forced the physical matter to arrange itself into a chair. The idea was the architect. The matter was just the brick. Seth says these psychological realities have a different quality of substance, but they are incredibly powerful.
So just because we can't touch a dream, that doesn't mean it's not made of something.
Exactly. He says if they seem occasionally insubstantial, it is because their substance is of a different quality. He also introduces the concept of psychological time here.
Okay.
He says these realities, dreams, ideas exist even when we aren't focusing on them.
That's the classic tree falls in the forest question, right?
Kinda, yeah.
If I stop dreaming about a place, does that place just disappear?
Seth says no.
Yeah.
He says, and this is another quote, "Just because your attention is no longer focused upon such realities, this does not mean that they do not continue to exist.
Wow.
They have their own existence, independent of your ego's spotlight."
That is actually kind of comforting and also a little haunting.
Talk both.
The idea that every dream I've ever had is just out there hanging out, waiting for me to come back.
Right.
It makes the dream world feel like a persistent, open world video game server. Even when you log off, the world is still running.
That's a great analogy. That's a perfect analogy. And it leads directly into the physics of how these two worlds sustain each other.
The physics, okay.
This is where we get into what I call the battery analogy.
Okay, lay it on me. How does the battery work?
Seth describes a continuous loop of energy. He says you do indeed give them energy, as they also give you energy.
So it's symbiotic.
It's a symbiotic relationship. We, in the physical world, generate emotions, experiences, and thoughts. We feed that energy into the dream universe. The dream universe takes that energy, transforms it, and feeds it back to us.
So we are basically charging the dream world, and it's charging us.
Precisely. It's a cycle. And as we change, the dream world changes.
So
Seth points out that as your ego changes its relationship with the physical world, say you get more confident or you learn a new skill, you change the dream world accordingly. You enrich it.
You're exporting your growth.
You're exporting it,
Okay.
yeah. And in return,
The dream world enriches us.
yes. Seth mentions value fulfillment. The dream world allows us to experience expansion that isn't possible in physical space. And this brings us to one of the funniest moments in this session.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The skull comment.
Yes, the Rockhead comment.
That's so good.
Seth is trying to explain that dream locations don't take up physical space. He asks rhetorically how a dream location like a giant cement building could fit inside a human skull.
Which is a fair question. If dreams are just in our heads, how do I dream of the Grand Canyon? My head is not big enough for a canyon.
Right. And Seth says, how could your small skull hold a replica of a cement building, for example, even though the skull might be a rockhead?
He called Rob a rockhead. He actually called him a rockhead.
He did. He's roasting Rob. Joseph is the entity name for Rob, so he's talking directly to him.
That's amusing.
And he immediately follows up with, you need not take that remark personally, Joseph. I couldn't resist making it, however.
Wow, that gives so much personality to Seth.
It does.
He's not this dry, dusty textbook. He's cheeky.
Totally. But the point he's making is profound. Dream locations are real places.
Yeah.
But they exist in a state of value fulfillment, not spatial extension.
So they don't need inches and feet to exist.
Exactly. They don't take up space. And this concept of realities that don't take up space sets the stage for the heavy hitter of this session.
Okay.
The Great Exchange. This is where Seth connects the crucifixion and the discovery of fire.
This was the part of the notes where I had to stop and reread it 3 times because it's such a wild connection.
It's a huge leap.
Let's start with the crucifixion. What is Seth claiming here?
Okay, this is sensitive territory for sure, but Seth approaches it from a metaphysical standpoint, not from religious dogma.
Got it.
He claims that the crucifixion was an actuality that did not take place in physical time.
Wait, so he's saying it didn't happen historically, like on a specific Tuesday in Jerusalem, that didn't happen.
He's saying it took place in dream time or psychological time. His words are, it took place where time is not as you know it. However, and this is a crucial part, he insists it was a gigantic reality.
So it was real, but it happened in the dream dimension.
Yes, and because it happened in the dream dimension, which he says is the architect of the physical, its impact was more powerful than if it had just been a physical execution.
More powerful? How could it be more powerful?
Seth argues that if it were just a physical event, it would be limited by time and space, a specific historical moment. But because it was a dream event that emerged into our collective consciousness, it transformed both universes.
Both universes. Wow.
He compares it to the emergence of a new planet, right?
Yeah, that's what he said.
He says it influenced the world of physical matter in a way that no purely physical reality ever could. It represents the knowledge that consciousness is independent of matter.
The ascension.
The ascension is the dream universe telling us, hey, you aren't stuck in these bodies forever. It's a massive injection of a new concept into our world.
Okay, so the dream universe gave us the story and the reality of the crucifixion and ascension. That was their gift to us.
A huge gift. Yeah.
What did we give them?
Fire.
Fire. Like rubbing 2 sticks together.
Yeah, literally fire. Seth says, the physical reality of fire was such a contribution made by the physical universe to the universe of dreams.
That is fascinating. So early humans discover fire. They master it. They domesticate it. And that intense physical experience,
Wow.
it echoes into the dream world.
It enriches it. Physical man, observing fire, dreamed of it, thereby immeasurably enriching the universe of dreams. It's a trade.
A trade.
We gave the dream world the concept of combustion, of light in the darkness, of that specific kind of energy.
And in return.
The dream world gave us spiritual frameworks that transcend matter.
It's a cosmic swap meet. We bring the fire. They bring the faith.
That's a great way to put it. But it shows that the relationship is equal. We aren't just passive receivers of dreams. We are active creators contributing to that dimension.
This leads perfectly into the next segment then, imagination. Because if we are contributing to the dream world, imagination seems to be the tool we use to do it.
That's the mechanism. Seth calls imagination waking man's connection with the universe of dreams.
That's a beautiful definition.
It is. It's the bridge.
And he says something really hopeful here about inventions, doesn't he?
He does. He suggests that many huge advancements and practical inventions are already there, just sitting in the dream world, just waiting.
Waiting for what? For someone to stumble on them.
Waiting for us to accept them. He says they wait in abeyance until some man accepts them as possibilities.
So you're telling me the cure for a disease or the design for a warp drive or, I don't know, the perfect pop song, it's already sitting on a shelf in the dream universe?
Theoretically, yes. According to Seth, it's all there. We just have to be open enough to pull it down. But he notes that our ego fights this.
The ego again. Why is the ego such a hater?
The ego likes security. It likes the physical world it knows. The table, the chair.
The predictable?
The predictable. New ideas, especially radical ones from the dream world, they threaten the status quo. If you accept a new reality, the ego has to change to accommodate it. And the ego hates change.
So we self-sabotage, we have these breakthroughs available, but our ego puts up a wall and says, no, that's just a fantasy, that's not real, get back to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Seth warns that if we deny these concepts, we hold back human progress. We put off breakthroughs that are sorely needed.
That feels very, very relevant to today. We often dismiss dreamers or people who think outside the box, but Seth is saying those people are the supply lines for civilization.
Without imagination, we are just recycling the same old physical furniture. Imagination is how we import new furniture.
Speaking of fixing things, let's talk about mental health. Because Seth drops a really interesting bit of advice on how dreams function as therapy. And not just talking about your feelings therapy, but actual mechanical repair.
This is the therapy while you sleep concept, and it's fascinating. Seth explains that when we sleep, the ego, that barrier we just talked about,
The guard dog.
It goes offline, it rests.
The guard dog goes to sleep.
Right, and when the guard dog is asleep, we can change our expectations. Seth argues that our physical reality is built on our expectations. If you expect to be depressed, or you expect to fail, you create shoddy physical constructions. You create a life that reinforces that sadness.
It's a feedback loop. I feel bad, so I create a bad situation, which makes me feel bad.
Exactly. But in the dream state, you can break the circle. Seth says you can recreate a time when expectations were high. You can experience joy, success, or lightness in a dream.
And that emotion carries over when you wake up.
Yes. It resets the momentum. He says it can start such an individual along a more beneficial path. It effectively changes your chemical and electromagnetic output.
So your dreams are actively trying to fix your waking life by injecting doses of high expectation while your cynical ego isn't looking.
That's it.
That is so cool. It means even if you're having a terrible week, your deeper self is working the night shift to patch you up.
It is. It's a very optimistic view of the subconscious.
Yeah.
It's not a dungeon of repressed fears. It's a repair shop.
A repair shop. I like that. Okay, we've done the theory. We've done the physics.
The fun stuff.
Now we have to get to the trip reports, because at the end of this session, Jane and Rob include their own notes from their psychological time experiments. And folks, this is where it gets a little spooky.
These are fascinating because they have raw data. It's not Seth lecturing. It's Jane and Rob trying to apply the concepts.
Let's start with Jane. This is a few days after the session, around December 17th. What is she experiencing?
She's trying to project her consciousness. She's focusing on a friend's kitchen, a woman named Marion Spaziani.
Right.
But instead of just seeing a kitchen, she gets these really intense physical sensations, extreme lightness, a feeling of no space.
She describes holding onto a pocket of nothingness with her thumbs. That is such a tactile, weird detail.
It is. It's so specific. And then the visuals kick in. She sees men in dark green uniforms.
Green uniforms. Like soldiers. Or what?
Maybe. She says they have helmets or helmet-shaped hats. They look like a work crew maybe doing an evacuation. One is digging in something that she notes isn't snow.
That's strange. And while all this is happening, her physical body is reacting, right?
Oh, yeah. She's shivering constantly.
Even though she's warm.
She's under a blanket in a warm house, but she can't stop shivering. It suggests a real physiological reaction to this shift in consciousness.
And then she hears names. Foster. Lancaster.
Out of nowhere.
And she doesn't know anyone with those names.
Nope. It's like picking up a stray radio signal.
Yeah.
Just fragments of another reality bleeding through.
Okay, but Rob's experience is the one that gave me actual chills. This was on December 20th.
Rob's entries are very descriptive. He starts with a physical sensation of enlargement. He feels like his limbs are swelling, expanding.
That's a classic symptom of the body asleep, mind awake state, right?
That's
Sleep
true.
paralysis vibes.
Right. It's that out-of-body transition feeling.
Yeah.
Then he sees 2 rows of identical gleaming knives.
Which is unsettling.
Very specific. But then he finds himself on a street.
A depressing main street of a small town.
He sees an empty storefront, gray plate glass. It's a very desolate liminal space. And he sees a figure, an indistinct male figure.
And this is the moment. This is where it gets weird. What happens?
Rob's projected consciousness hears his own voice boom out of that empty store.
Wait, his own voice coming from the empty building.
Yes. And the voice says, "Now you've known me before."
Now you've known me before. That is terrifying.
It is. It's so creepy. And the figure on the street thinks so too.
I bet.
Rob describes the figure getting scared, scrambling backward, and falling down.
Oh my God. Rob basically became a poltergeist in his own dream. He haunted some poor random guy on a dream street.
That's one way to look at it. Or he encountered a facet of himself or another entity and asserted his dominance or familiarity. But the interaction, the voice booming from nowhere, the fear reaction, it shows that these dream environments feel incredibly real.
Yeah, and they have stakes for the people or entities inside them.
Exactly.
It really drives home Seth's point that these aren't just wisps of smoke. That guy who fell down, he felt fear, he felt gravity. To him, Rob was the monster in the storefront.
Exactly. It validates the whole idea that we are interacting with realities that have their own autonomy. We aren't just watching a movie. We are stepping onto a stage where the other actors don't know they are in our dream.
Man. Okay, let's take a deep breath. We've covered a lot.
We have.
We've gone from the paperboy to the crucifixion to haunting empty storefronts. So what does this all mean? Let's try to synthesize this for the listener.
I think the big takeaway, for me at least, is the validity of the inner life.
Yeah.
We spend so much time obsessed with the physical, our jobs, our houses, our bodies.
Oh, it's the real world.
The real world. Seth is telling us that the invisible part of our lives, our dreams, our ideas, our imagination, is actually the engine room.
It's the architecture. The physical world is just the facade.
Right. And we are active participants. The fire for faith trade, that concept that we contribute to the dream world, gives us agency. We aren't victims of the universe. We are co-creators.
And I love the humor. I love that Seth calls Rob a rockhead.
Chuckles. It's the best part.
I love that Jane has to stop channeling to pay the paperboy. It reminds us that spiritual work is messy. It's human. It happens in the living room, not just in the temple.
It creates a beautiful bridge between the mystic and the mundane. You can be a channel for cosmic wisdom and still need to find change for a $2 bill.
So here is our final provocative thought for you to mull over tonight.
Okay.
If Seth is right, if the physical world gave fire to the dream world thousands of years ago, what are we contributing to the dream universe right now?
Oof. That's a heavy question.
Think about it. We live in an age of, well, high anxiety, digital overload, instant gratification, but also incredible connection and information. Are we flooding the dream dimension with anxiety? Are we creating new furniture made of stress?
Or are we contributing something new, maybe a new kind of network consciousness from the internet, from everything else?
What are we exporting?
It makes you want to be a little more careful about what you focus on during the day, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because you're exporting it every night.
You are. You're shipping it out to the dream universe every night. So maybe try to send them something good tonight.
I like that. A good intention before sleep.
All right, that wraps up our deep dive into session 115. Again, we can't thank the New Awareness Network enough for preserving this material. Please go to sethcenter.com/the early sessions.
Yeah, please do.
Buy the books, read the full sessions. There's so much detail we couldn't get to.
And just a reminder, this was distributed free of charge for educational purposes. We hope it sparked something for you.
Thanks for listening. Stay curious, keep dreaming, and we'll see you in the dreamscape.